Hey guys, Elissa Stone. So excited about today. I'm going to put myself in the hot seat. So we just recently went through my first multifamily acquisition, and we had a very interesting structure, both with Noble Mortgage and one other individual. And Darel Daik, who has been with me 2 different times now, he's with me for the 3rd time. He's received a lot of questions about how the deal was structured and kind of how we went through it from start to completion. So I'm going to put myself in the hot seat today, and Darel's going to be asking questions, and we're going to cover exactly what transpired in this deal. And I think just to preface the entire day is impossible is a spirit, and it's a mindset. And if I was not able to overcome that, I would not be sitting here now with my first multifamily deal funded and fully closed. So, Darel, it's all you. Let's have fun today.
Hello, Elissa.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Oh, gosh, I'm getting nervous.
State your name, please.
Elissa Dawn Stone.
I didn't know it was Dawn. That's new information.
D-A-W-N. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay. W-N. Yes, so it was my idea to do this podcast today.
Yes, it was. And I was like, let's do it.
Yeah, so we post a loan every Friday, or we call it our Funding Friday, and yours was whenever that was, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
almost 2
weeks
weeks ago. And we posted some of the details about your 11-unit property in Texas City and the fact that you only brought $400 to the closing table, which is unbelievable,
right,
considering you purchased a $600,000 apartment. So I got several text messages and direct messages on Facebook Messenger asking, how did she do this? How did she structure this loan? How do you buy an apartment complex with only $400 to closing? So after getting enough of those, I called Elissa or texted her. I said, we need to do a podcast out of this. Everybody's asking about it.
Right.
How do we do this? So
I don't even know how I did it. I'm still in shock.
Yeah, it was a good structure, though. I think you did a good job at structuring it. You got very creative like you always do on your deals. And I typically never know what your loan's going to be until the day of, because you're always asking for additional money. Or
you can't say you don't love that about me, though, right? I have such
Yes.
creative deal structure and ideas, and because we have that proven success together, it kind of like, okay, it makes sense, it works.
Yeah, and a lot of people always ask, well, how can you do this? Can you do it? And when you get a relationship with the lender, and when the lender gets a relationship with the borrower, it becomes so much easier to be flexible.
Sure.
Because you always perform, you always pull it off, you always have a good vision, you get the work done, you get the property sold. And so it's very easy for me to be flexible with customers like you that always perform. Someone new, you're like, well, I don't know, we got to take it easy. So Elissa approached me with this apartment complex. She was buying it for, I believe, originally, how much?
Originally, it was at $625, and then we went through a little bit of negotiation, and we came down to about $615. And then, unfortunately, there were some issues that popped up while I was under contract, so we had to renegotiate. And what we ended up closing at was $602,000,
which was almost where you wanted to be. We got really close.
My goal was $599. I wanted right under that $600K mark, but we were $3,000 short. I'll take it. All good.
So what's interesting about that is you're not giving yourself enough credit here, but she was at $615, but then a couple things happened on the deal. So let's explain that so you understand how you get from $615 down to $602. So
Sure.
Elissa is a mindset like me of where there's a problem, there's an opportunity. So.
Right.
Problems came up on the deal. I believe, was it a lease signed without your authorization? There were some roofing issues. What was it exactly?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple things, and I'll take a couple of steps back just to give some really good information and kind of the ebb and flow of the deal. Whenever I originally found the deal, it was presented to me by a wholesaler, which is a very interesting situation when you're looking at multifamily. It's all about the numbers. It's all about the due diligence and the financials. So long story short, in most cases with multifamily, an average close time is between 90 and 120 days to, kind of take it through the process, inspections, due diligence, all of that good stuff. I wanted this property, and there were a couple of reasons for it. One of them was the numbers. One of them was the long-term build-out, which we'll discuss. And then there was a third personal element that I will also share on this, which is really super cool. But so to start out, I ended up getting it under contract, and I said, hey, I'm going to close on this within 45 days. Once again, in my real estate career, this is the third time recently that I've entered into a contract not knowing how I was going to close, not knowing how I was going to come up with the funds to close. But what I know about myself is I have that confidence and I'll figure it out. And it's all about the creative deal structure and kind of letting your mind work. So from the beginning, I had $6,000 hard earnest money. And I was like, well, there's no turning back now. So once we got it under contract, we started, going through the due diligence phase, looking at the inspection reports, things of that nature. And originally had this deal 100% funded through a private money lender. So what that meant is I had commitment from a private money lender for the purchase price of the property, the actual rehab of the existing units. And then what's unique about this property that really had me interested is that you could build out 8 additional units on the same land, and I had conceptual plans for that. So this private money lender was going to fund that as well. So purchase price, existing rehab, as well as the new builds. And then once all of that was complete and up and running and stabilized, then we would transition into a lower interest rate, actual bank loan. Unfortunately, I've never had this happen. Great individual. He's loaned with me before. He did end up backing out. It was for business reasons because he put a hotel under contract and was going to pay $4 million cash. And so that kind of like took him out of the running of my deal. He's always performed. He's always been there for me. No big deal. But it left me in a situation where I was like, excuse my language, oh shit, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally, at home every single night. I'm like, well, what do I do now? Because I have a plethora of private money lenders, but at the same time, not that have that type of actual cash flow to throw at a deal for a 1-year period of time. And we were talking over $1 million all in. So I had many sleepless nights, and that's when the head started working, the creative deal structure. I knew that I had 45 days to perform and to close. How am I going to do this? And again, originally the purchase price was $625. We took it down to $615, and then we ended up closing at $602. And the reason for that is because during the contract period, yes, you are correct. There was another lease signed, and unfortunately, during that contract period, there are supposed to be no changes to the property. One of the things that I saw with this property is that it was all month-to-month leases. There were very few people on 6-month or 1-year leases. So automatically I could go in and kind of restructure the lease terms as well as do some utility buyback, things of that nature. And, so there was that. And then there were some other interesting things that happened. Like, for example, I went out to the property during the appraisal from Noble Mortgage, and all of a sudden there's a tarp on the roof and there's new leaks. And that was not the case during the inspection period. And so it was some of those moving parts that enabled me to further negotiate and bring down the price to the 602 for all the numbers to make sense and work.
Yeah. So, and for those who don't know what a private money lender is, so some people may not even know what that means. This is just an individual that loans his money out personally.
Yes.
So he backs out of the deal. So, of course, I always get, the leftovers from Elissa when the private money lender runs away. Darel, what are you doing?
I keep you close.
Old friend.
This is the second time I'm like, Darel.
Remember me? Remember that apartment deal I told you about? I thought you had it funded, Elissa.
I did. Not anymore. Hi, Darel.
No, happy to be your second choice in the deal, which is great. I mean, I get that because we get a lot of customers that, they go through the process of start off with hard money, and then eventually maybe they go to some private lenders, and then they come back to you on certain deals. And so I respect that, even if you can get a better deal and so forth. But always love when the private guy backs out. So I'm always like,
you're like, here I am. I'm ready to close.
And that's I use that as leverage when I talk to customers about private money, because you never know. Like sometimes it might be the guy's on vacation.
Right.
Oh, I can't loan this month because I'm going on vacation. And so one of the benefits of having a hard money lender is that doors are always open type of thing,
Sure.
And private money lenders are kind of fickle. You never know when things are going to change. So, yes, you approached us, and it's a cute property. You think it used to be like a motel or something, that right?
I don't know that it was ever actually a motel. It was built in 65, but it has the appearance of a hotel because it's 2 different buildings, 11 total units, and there's other land, to build the additional units, and I have the conceptual plans, and then these amazing trees. So I'm very excited to get in there, spend a little bit of money doing the existing rehab. It's all efficiency units, but the reason why why I'm fascinated with this particular area is because, as we know, jobs equal housing. And there's some interesting stuff going on in Texas City. For example, there's a $1 billion ammonia plant being built in that area that's slated to open in 2023. So obviously there's going to be a lot of jobs from that. And housing is super important in the area.
Yeah, Texas City is, I have another client who loves Texas City and does a lot of deals down there. But yeah, the potential land there with the 8 units is really what makes this deal, I think.
100%.
I think that makes it. And so anyway, she came to us. We got the property appraised, subject to the rehab. It's a light rehab, I believe, of $40,000.
Yes.
I believe the property appraised for close to 700. I can't remember what the number was.
With the rehab, it was going to come in at 675, I believe.
675. So we loaned, I believe, $482,500. And then your private money, you have a different private money lender at this point because you had the equity to put in, but you have a lot of other projects going on. So why use your own money when you can use other people's money, right?
Right. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about this structure and how I came up with it. So in real estate, obviously, it's all about creative deal financing, overcoming that impossible mindset. And I knew I was going to close. I point blank told you that several weeks before it even happened.
Yep.
And I was like, I don't know how, but it's going to happen. So when I had many of those sleepless nights, you have to have a certain amount of liquidity in the bank, both to close, and then you also have to have money to take to closing. I have several large projects going on right now on the single family side. So for example, one of them, just the purchase price alone was $520,000. And then the second one, which was with Noble Mortgage, that purchase price without rehab was $645,000. So I've got a lot of my cash in some of my deals. And, I wasn't going to have quite enough cash to take to closing on this one. So it's like, how do I structure this? Because the power play on this particular property is, it's cash flowing at a 4% interest rate. However, I'm looking at the new builds. I'm looking at the land. And there's also a little piece of land that's separate from what I bought, that there's an old structure on it. And I am working very diligently to try to purchase that as well, because I would love to do even more builds. But where I'm going with all this is when I had those sleepless nights, I'm like, okay, I'm going to use Noble Mortgage because they've always been there for me. They're going to perform. They're going to help me get this deal done and make sure that, all the numbers work and all that good stuff. But then the challenge that I needed a solution to is I needed to have about $150,000 to $180,000 to take to closing and still keep some liquidity in the bank. I didn't have that. But again, it's the mindset. I'm closing on this deal, and I'll tell you the personal reasons in just a minute. So how do I figure this out? And that's when I came up with a creative deal solution to bring in a private money lender for gap funding. So what that means is having a private money lender where he's getting paid percentage points on the money that he's going to bring to this deal. So thank you, by the way. I'm not going to mention any names, but amazing partnership. So excited that we're working together. This isn't the first time that we've worked on something, and I know there's going to be a lot more. You know who I'm talking about. But anyway, so this particular private money lender came to the closing table, brought right under $170,000. He is making percentage points based on an annualized basis for doing this. So he is not a partner. I'm 100% owner at this point in time. And what we're going to do is go through the existing light rehab. And then once we flip and, we continue stabilizing the property, get everybody on, 6-month, 12-month leases, do some rent bumps, things of that nature. Then we're going to go into the refi portion, which is what I call phase 2. And this particular private money lender, he'll get his principal back as well as get paid interest on the money that he has brought to the table. And then we'll transition him into a partnership role. He will be a passive partner, more than likely 80-20%, possibly 70-30. So he will stay very silent, continue to make money, and enjoy some of those profits. And that was the determining factor in him coming in on the front end, because I understood his motivations. I understood what he wanted. He wanted to increase his real estate portfolio, but he wanted to be passive.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, on the front end, phase 1, let's make money on your money. So you're doing nothing. You're bringing your money to the table in a second lien position as a gap lender. You're making those percentage points. And then once we go through the refi and rope in the new build and new construction, he's going to move into more of a partnership role. And again, very, very passive. And so that was the icing on the cake that highlighted things for him that said, yes, I want to be part of this deal. And I'll be part of phase 1 as long as I'm part of phase 2. do. And that was my creative deal structure in order to get this deal done. So we're still on phase 1, but we've closed, we've funded, and we're currently working on stabilizing the property. I actually have a call with my property management company today at 3:30 p.m.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how that one turns out. And so the equity play on the other side is you have land for at least 8 units.
Correct.
So when you build those, we'll probably structure that as a refinance into a construction loan and build the 8 units. Now, does that, and I'm curious on this, does it require you to do commercial grade construction, or because it's 2 4 units, can you get away with residential?
That's why the conceptual plans and why I'm doing the 2 4 units. So it's not going to be commercial grade.
Which is going to be a lot cheaper to build.
Exactly. And I don't have to have the sprinkler systems and things
Yes.
of that nature.
Yes.
So there was a power play with that and strategy behind it.
Yeah, so that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's just like building a single family house. The permitting is a lot easier. The
Yes.
construction cost is a lot less. And then if you can get that additional land, you can probably even build how many more units you think?
I would think 4 more, maybe a couple more, but at least 4, because the way that it's positioned with the conceptual plans, if we X out that home, it's a single family home right on the corner. Like I would have the entire lot, and it just would be absolutely beautiful to demo that and then put another 4 unit there as well. So possible 12.
So that means you'd go from 11 units to more than doubling the amount of units on this property to 23.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Now that's long-term strategy and that's
Sure.
best case scenario. But I love, kind of that opportunity. And those are some of the things that I saw. It was the 8 unit that really drew me to this, particular deal. Obviously it was already cash flowing without those in place, but imagine once that's up and running. And then when I wanted to rope in this one particular lot, why not go after it? You have these beautiful ideas. Worst case you can get is a no. Best case, after 7 or 8 times, maybe you get that yes. And that's what I'm notorious for.
Yes. You're a lot like me in that I look forward to people telling me no sometimes.
I love
just so
hearing
I can
no.
overcome it. Even like simple things like going to a restaurant and we're full and I'm like, okay, now we start.
You and I are so much the same.
I'm like, now the games begin.
Yes. We're like, how are we going to negotiate? How are we going to get what we want?
I'm like, tell me no. Please tell me no.
100%. Okay, so I have to share kind of the personal side of this property that was really cool.
I was getting to that. Well, first of all, let me say, Elissa always has like this thing about each house that strikes her or sticks with her, or she names it. She always has this thing about it that gets her creative juices going, and she's like, okay, now I know this deal was meant to be.
Yeah.
So this one was kind of even more strange the way it came about. I remember you told me this. I was like, wow, that is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
So
okay.
tell the story.
This is the coolest ever. So whenever I launched my company a little over 3 years ago, I started out single family redevelopment. And in the back of my head, the strategy was always to go multifamily. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, I just knew it was going to happen. So here I am, a little over 3 years in owning my own business, and I now have my first multifamily acquisition. And so it's all about goals. And, the way that I've been structuring my business is building my equity partners over the last couple years, having them walk these single family properties with me. So they see, upon takeover, when it's a hoarder situation and just the property's in complete disarray. And then I would bring them back at the very end and you could just see their eyes pop out. This was how I was able to acquire some of my private money lenders as well. For example, on one of my high-end single family projects, I have one private money lender that just popped me about $700,000. That was for purchase price, rehab, and holding costs. But it's because I courted him for about a year. Like I helped educate him in the process. Very intelligent man, much smarter than I am. But at the same time, like he'd never done the single family side, nor did he want to, but he wanted to make money on his money.
Sure.
And so it was that credibility, it was that respect, it was that integrity. And then that particular individual, after about a year of working with him and him following me and seeing my proven results, that's when I said, here's the opportunity, here's how much I'm looking for. He's like, I'm in, let's do this. But where I'm going with all that is, so here we are a little over 3 years, just acquired my first multifamily property. And I, like Darel said, I often name my properties, or I have this intuition and this gut feeling about them. I always have. I could go into more detail, but I'll spare you the boring details of those. On this multifamily, It was the second property that I looked at, and my maiden name is Palmer, Palmer. And I lost my dad. He was a Marine when I was 16 years old. Obviously anybody losing a parent is very, very difficult, but I idolized my dad. He was my strength. He was my everything. No, he wasn't perfect. Nobody is. But a lot of my personality and my tenacity and perseverance and that mindset mentality comes from him. It came from both of my parents, but my dad really pushed me to the nth degree. So I'm driving out to the second multifamily property that I've ever looked at, and the main street that it is off of is called Palmer. And I'm like, how cool is that? It reminds me of my dad. Whenever I got married, I guess it was in 2010, 2011. It all kind of runs together now. I think it was 2011. It was very difficult for me to give up my dad's name, but I wanted to be respectful to the person that I was marrying at that point in time. But it was hard because, it was a piece of my dad. He's no longer here. So driving out to that property and it being off of Palmer, it was super cool to me. So then I get to the property and we're walking around. I'm with the existing property manager. I'm checking things out, and I'd already run my numbers, so I already knew it was cash flowing at a 4%. And I'm like, well, what's the name of the property? There's no sign. There's no anything. She's like, oh, well, there's a small sign back on the fence. I'm like, okay, well, take me to it. Like, what is the name of the property? And the name of the property was Stone King Apartments. And for those of you that don't know, my last name is Stone, and that was from a previous marriage. And I chose to keep that because of my beautiful kids. I wanted to have the same last name. That was just important to me. And so I'm like, what are the chances my maiden name, Palmer, is the main street it's off of, and then the actual apartment complex is called Stone King? And I'm like, I knew 100% that this was going to be my property, not only from the number standpoint, but also the personal standpoint, that intuition, and I was going to do whatever it took to close, and here we are.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool, though. What are the odds of that?
It's crazy. I knew, and I had this feeling come over my body, and I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And I will tell you, once the private money lender, when he first backed out, I was like, no, this is my property. Like, I will do whatever it takes.
Yeah, manifest.
Yeah.
All
100%.
about men. Now, I think you should rename the apartments Palmerstone Apartments.
Oh, I like it. Well, who knows? But my next acquisition, look at me, I'm already thinking about my next one. That's what I do, right?
That's
I'm
what
like,
you're supposed to do.
Yeah, okay. Next one's already in the pipeline, it's going to happen. But my next one, I think I'm going to do something with a theme where everything has Palmer or stone, just because it's symbolic to me and it means something.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And it's like the family legacy,
Yeah.
whether it be Palmer House or just different things. And so who knows? I'm just toying with it in my head. It could be fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So I believe at close you had $6,000 up hard, earnest money hard, and so at closing you got money back. That's right?
Yes. I don't know if you want me to advertise this, but
Well, you got money back, and then I think you ended up having $400. It was $392 net in the deal.
Yeah.
After everything was said and done, it was just under $400.
Well, I don't know if you want me to share this, but it's too late.
No, go ahead.
So I had $6,000 hard money in it, and then we also did the $3,500 multifamily appraisal.
Uh-huh.
And so this was not offered to me, but this is that creative mindset. I was more than happy to close on this with $13,500 in the deal, but I'm like, well, hey, let's put some more liquid in the bank. That way I can acquire my next property. And so the way it ended up turning out in discussing this with Chris over at Noble is hey, let's bring that money back out in the deal. And that's how I ended up closing with less than $400 at the closing table.
Yeah, and as a lender, I don't have a problem with that. As long as a hard money lender thinks differently than a bank.
Yeah.
As long as our LTV is where we need to be, I don't really care if the borrower has money in it. Not all hard money lenders are like that. Some require minimum 10%, whatever. But
Right.
your private guy stepped in, brought $170,000 to the table.
Yeah.
A lot of banks don't allow second liens. That's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize. If you go to a traditional community bank or any type of lender at all, they don't typically allow a second lien to be filed behind theirs.
Right.
It's just not allowed. So when you do refinance it, you have to restructure that.
Sure.
Me personally, as a hard money lender, I don't really care about the second lien. Matter of fact, this is what a lot of people don't realize. A lot of hard money lenders think the same way. I like second liens.
Really? Tell me why.
I'll tell you why. Because if there's ever a default on the loan from the borrower, who's
Right.
that we have a first lien on, guess who I'm calling?
Exactly.
I'm calling the second lien. I'm like, hey, I'm going to foreclose on this property and wipe you out unless you catch it up. So I've done that before. I had a big loan several years ago, $1 million loan, and there was a $200,000 second from a private guy out of California. And I said, look, this guy's behind. He's disappeared. He's ghosting us. Wow. We're going to wipe you out. So he started making payments.
Right. It's like a little insurance policy.
Exactly. So I'm like, yeah, bring a second all day long.
Okay. Well, good. I didn't know that
Not
you
that I'm
did
worried
that.
about that. Not that I'm worried about that on you, but you know.
Yeah, you never know.
But that's kind of how my thinking is on it. But traditional lender would not do that. So that's where a lot of the questions came from. People were like, how did she get a second? How did she get a second?
Right. Well, and see, I wasn't even aware that you did or did not do that. But my typical personality is like, I just assume that you're going to do exactly what I want.
Yeah. Well, gap funding is fairly common in the hard money side, you know, and that's what they call the second lien, simply gap funding. So they're putting in the equity, which is normally coming from the customer. So beautiful structure. 11 units, potentially 23, $400 to the table on your first multifamily deal.
Yep.
Awesome deal, Elissa.
Yes.
Awesome deal.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for saving me as you always do.
Oh, that was my pleasure.
You will always be my savior.
I'm here to loan money.
There you go.
You know?
There you go.
So anyway, good job. I wanted to at least tell everybody about that deal, and so they can get an idea that there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Sure. And
once you're determined, like you said, it's just you got to have the right structure and have the right people. But you had worked with these private money lenders, so it was very easy for him to loan you the money at that point. So it's a beautiful deal.
Right. Well, and with this particular individual, this was his very first time doing a private money loan with me. We'd done some other real estate things on the realtor side, but it goes to show. My last 3 contracts that I've entered into, I had no idea how I was going to close on them. And I told myself on the last one, the project and memorial that Noble actually funded, it's very stressful when you do that. And I told myself in the last one, I'm not going to do this again. I cannot withstand the stress. I'm a mom of twins. I try to halfway take care of myself. I'm trying to run a business. I'm like, I can't keep doing this to myself. And then not even a couple of weeks later, like here I am, multifamily. I'm like, you know what? This is just who I am. This is my personality. And I think that I would miss if that was not the case. And I love that you can enter into something, not know all the details, not know how you're going to do it. I am educated. I can always, further educate myself, but I just have this confidence in myself. And worst case scenario, maybe I lose some earnest money. Maybe I fall on my face one time, but you know what? I guarantee you one thing, I'm going to learn and I'm going to get back up and come back hungrier and stronger than before. But in this particular deal, I did it. I've done it 3 times in a row, and I've been taught and educated that you find the deal, you find the money. And what I love about my mindset is it's not just this cookie cutter in a box thinking. I'm very creative with deal structure. I'm very creative with long-term strategy on projects. I may not always be 100% right, but at the same time, like I've been right a lot more than I've been wrong, and I've always produced and always performed, and the sky's the limit in real estate.
Yes.
I have some very, very lofty goals on where I'm going and what I want to do. I have my bad days all the time. Actually just had a couple, to be honest with you, and I do this often. Sometimes I have a couple days where I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I can't do this. This is too much stress, and your head plays tricks with you. But what I've learned about myself is when your head starts playing tricks, be in that space for a moment and then get your shit together.
Yes.
And get back up and get after it. And then, I look back, and if I remove myself from my results, meaning if I detach who I am and I look at what I've done in 3 years, no, it's not enough for me. It's not good enough. I have so much further to go, but I've got some really amazing accomplishments.
Oh yeah, you absolutely do.
And I have to stop and look at that. And I have to, instead of just focusing on the one thing, well, okay, I didn't get a contract on, this one particular single family in, less than 11 days like I have on my last 5 projects. I'm so focused. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 30 days. I analyze it. What can I do better? How can I improve? Like, where is the mishap here? But then at the same time, I've got to take a step back and let's look at, Elissa, all these successes that you have had, things that you have learned, and you gotta balance that out, because
you gotta celebrate your wins.
Yes, because I have the tendency, as that growth and improvement mindset, I always focus on, well, what didn't go well? Why? How can I do it better? But I beat myself up, and
Yes.
I've really got to learn to stop and be like, okay, you've analyzed this, good, like you know what moves you need to make, but look at XYZ that you've done too, and make sure you highlight that, because that's really how you're able to move forward and kind of get out of that little bit of a couple day funk in your head.
Yes. Well, I think, that's normal for a business owner, but celebrating your wins is so important, but most business owners don't take the time to do it, because especially the longer you've been in business. I mean, I've had my company for 18 years now.
That's amazing.
So I have to really focus on celebrating wins, especially with my team. And so we do, something every quarter. We try to really focus on that, but I never used to do that.
Really?
I never used to do that. I hired a business coach who taught me that. He's like, you got to celebrate your wins, because at the time I had just celebrated my 10th anniversary with Noble, and it was already a year later when I hired my business coach. And he's like, what'd you do for your tenure? I was like, nothing. I went to work.
That's huge. 10
He's like,
years is
you
huge.
didn't celebrate your being in business 10 years? And I was like, no. And he's
Daryl.
like, I just don't think about it, So I immediately that same day, I went and bought myself a really nice watch.
Okay, good. I love it.
So now I think about that more, but it's very important. And the other thing I was going to say is, the longer you're in business, the more you learn how to calm yourself during those storms and during those doubts. That's one thing I've learned over the years, because after going through the Great Recession and then the pandemic last year, I find myself under stressful situations getting really calm now.
Really? Okay.
Really calm. And you're able to do that too. I think I don't know if you get really calm, but you get really creative.
Mm-hmm. My head, that's what happens. My head goes
pressure.
to work.
Yes.
And it makes me get very creative. And a lot of times it happens at night when I'm not able to sleep. And it's funny because I'm starting to fall asleep, but my head is working. That is precisely how I came up with this creative deal structure.
Yes.
I wasn't taught this. Nobody gave me the answers. Nobody said, hey, here's what you should do. All I knew is I've got to get this deal done. I've got to perform. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't have the liquidity. I don't have the money to take to closing. And then it's just, I let my brain go. And I came up with this. And, lo and behold, you've done, maybe a similar structure with second lien position holders before. But to me, it's like the creativity. That's really what it's all about, because like I said, impossible is a spirit. And in my head, I won't take that things are impossible. It's like, figure it out, make it happen.
There's always a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you perform well under pressure, but you get really creative at that point. So that's a good thing.
Thank you.
And now you're addicted to it, probably.
I am.
If an easy deal comes by, you're going to pass on it. No.
I told myself on this multifamily, like I did the last single family, I told myself, I'm not going to put myself in this position again. This is way too much stress. I'm under contract. I don't know how to close it, but I guarantee you, probably, 3 weeks, maybe a month out, I'm going to be under contract again. And I'm like, here I go again.
That's what you're supposed to do.
That's who I am.
That's what you're
I have
supposed
to
to do.
accept it, right?
Yeah. I mean, you should always be looking for deals.
Yeah, 100%.
Always looking for deals. That's the hardest thing in real estate. I always tell everybody that. The hardest thing in real estate is finding the deal.
Yeah.
You can find money, you can get an appraiser, you can get a realtor, all that, they're available at your fingertips. But finding the deal is always the hardest part. So as an investor, you should always be looking for deals, I think.
Totally agree. 100%.
Well, anyway, great job. Congratulations again.
Thank you for being there.
Yes. Looking forward to seeing this, how this whole thing plays out. If it ends up being 19 units or 23 units or whatever it is, it's going to be interesting.
I would kill, not really, but I would love for it to be 23 units.
That'd be
and
really
what a
cool.
great idea. After I close, that's when I came up with the idea, well, like, why not go after this corner lot? And so I have a couple of amazing individuals who have been doing research to find out who the owner was. There's a possibility he's in Germany at this point, but let's go after it. I mean, he might not even be here. Absent landlord, like he would love some money in his pocket.
Yeah.
Let's close on it. Let's get on down the road.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. We'll keep everybody updated. Oh, and one other thing, you don't know I'm going to mention this. We talked about maybe like a trip in October, a bunch of people, real estate related. So at some point in time, October, maybe end October, I would love to do like a fun trip, Cabo. And I want everybody to enjoy, but at the same time, like it's real estate related. There's strategy behind it, just learning and growing. So if anybody's interested, let me know. We're probably going to be doing that. Just a big group of people, like-minded individuals, all growth mentality, and just having fun, but at the same time learning and having that strategy as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it'll be
That'd
fun.
be great. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Thank you again, Daryl. You've
Thanks for
always
having
been there
me.
for me. Great company, great customer service. I can't say enough about you guys. And it was funny, months ago, I was like, okay, Noble Mortgage, y'all are going to help me with my first multifamily deal. And I was excited that I had a private money lender, which was a little bit cheaper. But at the same time, look who came through to me. And that's why relationships are so important. Noble Mortgage, Daryl.
Thank you. We love doing business with you, of course.
Thank you. All right, guys. See you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Take care.